Hi and welcome to this post-social podcast. Today we talk to Bloomsbury football futsal coach John Kurrant about his work at the club and how the club helps the popularity of futsal throughout London. We also discuss his previous experiences in playing the sport and what he had learned while playing futsal. Before we start, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and check the descriptions for our Twitter, Facebook and LinkedIn pages. Okay, first of all, thank you very much, John, for agreeing to be here today. How are you?
Yeah, good. Tired from game day Sunday, still not recovered yet, but other than that, all good and ready to go.
As well, my legs are a bit knackered. So, first of all, just give a brief description about yourself, what you do, especially sports you're interested in.
Okay, so avid football fan, futsal fan. I am currently head coach of the futsal academy at Bloomsbury Football. Bloomsbury Football is an organisation, a charitable organisation based in central London, but also North London now, offering high-level football and futsal provision for players and children of all backgrounds, so they don't have a barrier to playing. And that's pretty much my day job, day to day at the moment.
Right, yeah. So, about your history in futsal, when did you first hear about it?
Not until I was at university. So I played football. I went to Loughborough University after I stopped playing quite late. I went a year late into university, and I probably didn't really hear about it until my end of my first year, beginning of my second year, when I'd completely fallen out with football at this point. And a very good friend in the football first team at Loughborough University, a guy called Adafe, he suggested futsal to me, and my first response was no chance. I've got no interest playing five-a-side. That's when I first heard about it.
Yeah, that's kind of been the same for me because I've just started the sport. I started as soon as I got into university. It's quite a step up from football, but it's kind of reignited a bit of a passion for football in me, just for some of the key elements. Do you think that's happened with you playing futsal?
Yeah, my background was I played football at academy and professionally until I was 20. So when I'd heard about futsal, I didn't know another format of the game other than obviously Power League or five-a-side, so that kind of smaller side of game. And historically, when I played as a kid, I'm now 33, so when I'm playing at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, playing indoors, it was with a green fluffy tennis ball, and the goals are pretty much like Power League goals now, and it didn't really interest me, if I'm honest. You know, the skill level of bouncing it off a wall just didn't do a lot for me. So when I first heard about it and was offered to play it, that's what I envisaged it being, and I wasn't interested. So when I actually saw a game and felt it, and the way I got into it was Loughborough had a team, very strong team at the time. They didn't qualify for the main FA Cup round for some reason. They got knocked out, but a team pulled out, and because players had already competed as a Loughborough team, they gave Loughborough, for whatever reason, a buy into that, but anyone that had already played couldn't play. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but because they'd already competed to try and qualify, anyone that was registered for that team wasn't allowed to play. They said, look, if you can field another team to take the spot of a team that's pulled out, then we'll do it. So that's where we were getting recruited from, and he kind of played to my ego. And FA Cup obviously is a very big football link there. So FA Futsal Cup, kind of my ears opened up a bit more. And that was my first experience in futsal, playing at a very high level straight away without really knowing what I was doing. I remember going to, I think it was Sheffield off the top of my head, the AIS Sheffield Centre, and they did it in the main arena. And we played against a team at the time called Spartans, who were the strongest team in England, and we got absolutely smashed by them. And then we got smashed in the quarterfinals. We got out of the group stages somehow, and we got smashed by Birmingham Futsal, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I've had quite a few games where it's been quite one-sided for my opposition team. It's quite a big transition playing futsal. I know it was for me because I didn't fully understand the rules. It was got a lot of fast pace. How quickly did you adapt to playing?
I think technically I was quite proficient, so I was a good passer of the ball, and to use your soul when you haven't really ever done that as a kid, or even when I was playing at academy, it just wasn't a surface we were used to receive the ball a lot of the time. In my era of playing, that kind of I transitioned very quickly for that side of the game. The thing that I didn't was just I had a complete lack of court awareness. I'm like, where am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do to get time on the ball, to break lines? Like, how am I supposed to break this team down? So I kind of struggled with the court awareness side the first game I ever played, and the first time it was getting playing at that level. And then I would also say movement, just how to move, where to move. I just felt very static. I was just a bit overwhelmed by how quick it was.
Yeah, it's quite a very fast-paced game. I definitely did struggle for a first couple of matches. So rather than your university, are there ever any other teams that you've been a part of while playing futsal?
Yeah, so I was at Loughborough University. After I completed there, moved down to where I'm based, Essex, London area. Played for Helvetia for a period of time when they had the likes of Passarinho, who's moved back, I believe, to Brazil, and a couple of absolute worldly players. Totti was there at the time. So those kind of players and learning from them was as important as being coached. When you're playing with good players around you. Genesis for a very, very small period of time. Wasn't kind of my environment. Amazing setup, but just was different and wasn't the best learning environment for me at the time. And then I'm trying to think from there, West London, when Rob Ursel was doing a bit there, with quite some very good players. Dave Jennings was there for a period of time, and Charlie Q and a few others. Did a little stint at Baku, and then I kind of set up Pro Futsal London. How many years ago that'd be now? 7 years ago, because I wanted the university environment of that togetherness and a good solid setup with good training facilities, but that wasn't restricted by you had to use those players at university. You could go and recruit players elsewhere, so that it kind of brought a bit of both. That was the whole reason behind it. And I'd started coaching an academy, so it was kind of having a pathway for players that are starting to take up the game at 11, 12, because I never got the chance to play at that age. So to have a pathway was something that was quite important to me. And I've been, for the last 6, 7 years, 6 years, playing for Pro Futsal London. That's now turned into Bloomsbury Futsal.
Right, yeah. So you say that you set up Pro Futsal for younger children to get involved into the sport. How important do you think it is for them to be involved with futsal? Or what can they learn from it, really?
We're lucky enough to have some academy players from Watford, Arsenal, Orient come and participate and join our academy. Now, if they do really well, it's probably not the best thing for us in the nicest sense, because they probably won't be playing futsal for our first team or playing futsal in England in general at that age. But I have noticed and seen, being around the circuit, that now if players aren't playing futsal, be it with, so Watford are doing a bit of futsal now, and the Premier League are putting on some futsal components. I know Fulham do quite a bit. But a lot of players are going to Bloomsbury. They're going to Ole Futsal, Finter Futsal, Escola Futsal in and around London that I know about. Whereby, because if they're not playing it, it's really gonna prevent them probably from making it in their football environment at a high level. And it's also it's just a different sport. I mean, it's as close to football as it is to basketball. So you get massive transference to football, but the way you move and the way you try to exploit space it is a microcosm of football, but it is very, very close to basketball, some of the moves. And so when you're learning from other sports, for me, it's a hybrid, and it makes the sport even better than football, obviously biased, but because you're bringing in other concepts. And I think that's what makes it quite an exciting sport, because of how fast paced it is, but also because you're bringing in a hybrid of concepts from other sports.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. So back to your work at Bloomsbury Football, can you go a bit more into depth of like what your daily roles are? What would you offer to the club?
Yeah, so we have foundation sessions for the week. So this is going to be like players that are very new to futsal or have a very inexperienced pathway with their football, and they want to kind of give futsal a go, because we've definitely seen that there's very strong footballers that struggle a little bit when they get onto a futsal court, and vice versa when we have very inexperienced footballers. Sometimes they take to futsal very quickly, because it's just it takes away that physicality. Like if you're a very quick football player, and you can get away with a lot of components at under 11, under 12, under 13, because your pace and your physicality gets you out of trouble. This game, it's much less dependent on your physicality. It's more your intelligence, your decision making, your technique. So we have foundation sessions through the week. And then on a Saturday is mainly our academy session. So this will be the more experienced players that take it a bit more seriously, who want to learn more the tactical side of the game. And we progress through that, play competitively. And we're trying to really get as many of these players through at 16 to play for our development team, or our women's team, or our men's first team. So that's my day-to-day is obviously developing sessions and getting people engaged with futsal in and around London, North London. And we're going to be kind of moving out in East and South London as well. But it's to kind of expose the sport and to get them high level provision from players and coaches that are experienced in the game, so they can learn and develop quicker than currently where we are at the moment, and just getting that out there. And then camps kind of play under that, and a bit of CPD for coaches in and around the football environment that Bloomsbury coach as well, because they offer a really high level program of football. And so we kind of bounce off each other, and we'll give each other ideas in our continuing professional development and coach ed that we have internally. So that's pretty much what I do. And then I coordinate the men's, women's and development teams that we play, for the adult provision and what we provide.
It definitely does sound like you're doing your work to try and get a lot more people into futsal out there. I do think that it's quite important. It's a great sport to definitely help you in your development as a footballer or any other sport. Going back to you, is there any personal highlights that you have while playing or coaching, that is, like winning anything, having someone that you've coached done very well?
It's a hard question to ask. Won Bucks with Loughborough. It's always important to win Bucks, but we had a very strong team. So it was kind of, right. I mean, it was expected, but at the same time, expectancy means nothing. You've actually got to go and do it. So winning Bucks definitely with Loughborough. Getting to semi-finals of the FA Futsal Cup with the men's team at Pro Futsal London, being a part of the NFS Tier 1 now, and competing for that top spot, which we're going to try and do this year. Getting very close a couple of seasons ago before the pandemic hit, finishing second. So wanting to play in the Champions League is a big one that I still want to do, but also getting England caps and representing England for the national team. That was a huge highlight. And then I would say from a coaching perspective, the under 14s pre-pandemic, it hasn't really been in operation since the pandemic. So just before the pandemic, our under 14s were champions England and won the FAU Futsal Cup. So that was a feather in the cap to coaching team, which I was obviously part of with Jordan and Tamas, who was very imperative for the team there. So they're probably the big ones, but I would say I haven't won as much as I would have liked, would probably be the best way to describe that. So as much as I'm happy with the form of what I've been talking about, definitely want to win quite a bit more in the next couple of years.
Well, still years to come. So and representing your national team in any sport is quite a big achievement. I know it was my dream as a little kid to represent England in anything. But talking about that, how was the experience there? Because England aren't as maybe as talented as other countries like Portugal, Spain in futsal.
Mm-hmm.
So how was it playing for England? And I think it was European Championships qualifications, something like that. I don't know if I've got it wrong there or.
Yeah, so interesting. I genuinely think that the culture if you can't really compare to a top 10 nation, they've been playing for probably like 40 years. They've put a lot of investment in it. Their infrastructure in different countries like Portugal as an example, because they're European and world, champions, won it. So their environment is that they have futsal as part of their culture. Kids play it to a certain age and then pick football, futsal. They have great indoor facilities with great access to it, whereas England at the moment isn't quite there. So very difficult to compete with top 10, very difficult to compete with top 20. I do feel like England were on the road to probably getting inside the top 25 at some point. I do think that we've got a lot to learn from coach on abroad. I'd say coach education in England is probably where we're falling short at the moment. I don't think as strong as I would like. We only play against a few teams that want to press, and that's going to develop the highest standard of the game rather than sitting half court. It's quite easy to be the antagonist in a game where you sit and counter, quite hard to dominate with the ball and be a protagonist in the game. So there's ways to go from there. But in terms of, we won. We qualified in the European Championships. It was a long time ago. It's when we had Guilherme Wallace, Sam Murphy, Cookie. They were dominating the game for the England team, and they managed to beat Cyprus and Lithuania on the way through to qualifying. But then we turned up in the next main round and then got taken apart, which just shows you the gulf. But I do think we're on the right track. I just feel like there needs to be a whole culture change. I know more people are hearing about what futsal is, and they know what and they have an awareness of what it is. But still, there's quite a few academy kids on Sunday that have been training and playing, never been to a live game until Sunday. So and they're players that are in our academy that have never watched a live game. So there's an awful lot that needs to be done still. I mean, BT Sport is great, but we need to engage the communities a little bit more. And I definitely have seen, since the England teams have been taken away due to funding issues, that motivation has waned, especially on people that are the torchbearers for the next group. So there are some senior England players that probably lost their way a little bit because that was kind of, it meant a lot to them. And so you need those torchbearers to kind of want to give the message and develop and progress the next generation. I think that's really important, that I think the FA have kind of missed a little bit.
Yeah, well, one can only hope that England will one day be competing in futsal World Cups, Euro Championships. Hopefully as good as our football team, but maybe we'll actually win it. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for being here.
No problem. No, thank you for having me. And good luck in your next episode.
Thank you. You too.